Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. As always, I am Graveyard, joined with my off-screen producer Salem. Make sure to say hi to Salem in chat. He likes to be in chat and just listen and do everything behind the scenes that you guys can't see, but he is there. I promise you, he is real, despite what he might type in the comments. So I'm pleased to introduce our guest for tonight, writer, director, producer, founder of Acrostar Films, and author with works including Morium, Attack of the Corn Zombies, and the upcoming Night of the Dead Sorority Babes. Please get up for one and only SJ Hermann. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. No problem. No problem. Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I've been following your work since I've been, introduced to the indie horror film world about a year ago at this point in time. And I think we met too. I think you were at Days of the Dead Con, were you not?
I was not.
You were not. Oh, okay.
I think Ann was. Ann was there.
Yeah, and Ann was definitely there. Okay. I thought maybe we had met, but apparently not. But all good. So we gotta ask the big old question is, what's your favorite scary movie?
Exorcist.
Exorcist?
Yeah. It still freaks me out to this day.
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, now, are you a fan of the Exorcist sequels?
No, just the original.
Just
nothing
the original?
Can top that. That's up there. Nothing can top that.
Oh, for sure. I can. Yeah, like I said, the first one it has its place. Everything else after that kind of just go away as far as we're concerned.
Right.
Oh, see, and there's Salem already in the chat saying boo to me. We are not big fans of the Exorcist franchise here, my co-host and I, but everyone has their own horror, and that's what I love about horror is everyone has their favorite movie, no matter what it is, and nothing wrong with that.
Right. Everybody has their unique taste.
Mm-hmm.
Some like slashers, some like psychological.
Yep,
it's all different.
For sure. So, I know from looking at past interviews you've done and research and stuff like that you got into writing really because essentially, from what I saw, The Stand by Stephen King. Is that correct?
That is correct. That was the first book I read of his, and that's what got me into writing. I love that book. Even the miniseries that I think ABC had it back on in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
I think early 80s and 90s because it had Molly Ringwald in it.
Right. Maybe it was late 80s. I can't remember. But I love that book. The thick ass book. Yeah, it took me a while, but I got through it. But
oh, for sure. Now, did you start writing right after reading that, or do you go like, hey, this is what horror books can be, and then just kind of dove into more of his work?
I dove a lot more into it. I think then I read Carrie, which was so-so, Christine, Cujo, and that's what started me, reading his work.
Mm-hmm.
And started watching the movies, which blah. But
yeah, his works are better written, not necessarily in movie form.
Though I would have to say the movie Carrie is a lot better than the book.
Yeah, I can see that. For sure.
Because to me, the book is just a mismatch. It bounces back and forth. I really didn't care for that. But yeah, but the movies, I even kind of like the remake of it.
Which remake? The one that came out early?
With, what's her name?
From Kick-Ass?
Yes.
Yeah. Chloe Moretz Grace, I think.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So when did you start writing after that, after getting into the Stephen King verse?
Wow. That was... Oh, crap. I'm trying to remember when I started writing. It seems like eons ago. 2012, I want to say.
Okay.
It's when I started writing Morium.
Okay. And that's been your longest series so far, right?
That's 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can get it in one massive book like The Stand that contains all three books.
That's awesome. My co-host Salem, he does like to write as well. He'll attest that when I have to write, I will give it to him to proofread just because I'm not as good as it, but by any stretch of the imagination. I just never been good with writing. I get so disinterested myself. I'm writing in my own head.
Right. I mean, it does happen to me. I mean, you write for so long, it's like, oh God, I'm bored of this already. But that's when I usually move on to something else and just push that off to the side for a bit,
Hmm.
and then come back to it.
That's awesome. And like I said, I think you are kind of really the first author that we really had. We've had a couple of people written books here and there, but you've written a good number of stuff out there. I'm excited. I haven't had a chance to pick up the books yet, but like I said, I've talked to Anne multiple times now. I talked to Sam, a lot of people that you work with, and they just say I need to pick it up, and it's on my list. I have it in my Amazon cart. Hopefully, next month for Father's Day, the wife will get it for me.
And that's one of the reasons why I got into filmmaking,
Hmm.
because it's basically every indie author's dream to see their books turned into films.
Right.
And that is like, you have a better chance getting, struck by a meteor than having that happen. So I just took it upon myself. And so I like learned filmmaking,
Hmm.
self-taught myself for a couple of years.
Yeah. And that's great, because we always hear now at that, we're about 40 years past, but the idea of Stephen King in his horrendous Maximum Overdrive, when he decided to start writing his own movies and directing them, of
Ooh,
what
Maximum
not to do.
Overdrive.
you know so before we get into the big meat and potatoes here, we always like to ask, for you, with whether it's writing, if it's a book, if it's a TV show, what do you feel is the most overrated horror that you just go, how do people like this? I don't understand the appeal of it.
Oh, that's a tough one. Uh, found footage.
Found footage?
Yeah, I would say found footage.
How
I mean, it was
come?
great. It was great when Blair Witch came out because it was so different,
Mhm.
and now it's just been overdone to death.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big thing to do. Like, I've worked in some of those found footage films. I mean, yeah, it's quicker, it's cheaper, let's face
Right.
it.
But I think
Um,
what really killed that was oh, what's the name of that series? That film series.
Paranormal Activity.
Yes, that's it. I think that really like overdid it and killed it
Hmm.
because they should have stopped it too. I think, but they just kept going.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was making the money for relatively cheap. Let's face it.
Right.
I think the first one was like $15,000, and they made, I don't know how many millions off of it.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, look at
Yeah,
Terrifier.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think they're good movies. I think they're good homages to the '80s slashers, but I don't think they're necessarily like as gut wrenching as everyone says they are. I've watched it and I'm like, okay, where's the scene that everyone's talking about? Maybe just because I'm weird and desensitized to all this stuff at this point in time, because I've been in watching these for a very long time. You know, but if found footage is, you think is most overrated, what do you think is the most underrated horror IP franchise that you just go, why are people sleeping on this?
Uh, that's tough. That's really tough.
I asked the tough questions.
Yeah,
Yes.
you do. I can't think of one right now.
I mean, yeah, it's hard, because if I was going to you, Steve, if what movie, if I'm new to the horror world, what movie should I watch? What would you give it as that as the answer then?
As what movie you should watch?
Yeah.
Well, one Exorcist. If you want to get into that, the first Friday the 13th
Mm,
and the first Halloween.
there you go. Uh-oh. We have some found footage horror nerd productions.
Uh
That sounds like Dylan's in the chat. Hey, Dylan.
oh, I stepped in it now.
I said everyone has their cup of tea. Like, I having worked on a couple. Like I said, I do appreciate found footage. Like I said, everyone is dedicated to what they want to do. So nothing wrong
Right.
with that.
No, nothing at all, man. I major props to anybody who makes movies. I mean, it's not easy, and God bless all of them
No.
who do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, having been now into the indie horror world for, like I said, almost a year now. It makes the world go round. You know, like I said, it's stuff I'm trying to work on, right, that I want to produce and make in the movies. Yeah, it's I kudos to anyone who's able to make a movie. You know, everyone thinks it's so easy that you can get into production, and it's just a labor of love from what I've seen. And for me, I know when I go and make a movie, I will probably spend way too much time in post.
Right.
You know, so you talk about, you know, making horror movies to get your books kind of made into films, and you also did a TV show, I think, a couple years ago over Morium.
Yes. That was only like 4 episodes, and that's when I first started filmmaking. And I look back now, that's something I really should have held off on because it's such a grand scale of a story. And I mean, the performances were great. I mean, if I had to rank myself like 1 out of 5, how I did on that, I would say 2, but the actors did like a 5. But that's something I would definitely think about circling back and redoing.
Now, did you create those when you had all 3 of your books out?
Yes.
Or no? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's been the experience for you? You know, you taught yourself filmmaking, you know, to go from your work to then put it on screen. What's that experience been like for you?
Well, writing a script and writing a book are like opposite ends. So that took a while to get used to. Because in a book, it's always tell, don't show. And in a script, it's reverse. So
Right.
I had to get adjusted to that. Because I'd be writing a script and I'd be writing what was in the character's head. It's like, well, shit, audience ain't going to know that.
Right.
But that was the biggest, you know, hurdle for me to get through.
So what was your push other than you wanted to get your works in there to really make Acrostar, and what convinced you to say take that leap from being an author to the writer for films?
Well, Morium, I wrote that book in anticipation, quote unquote, of being made into a movie.
Okay.
So I kind of wrote it like that.
And
from there, I just went ahead and forged ahead and made a series out of it. Or semi-series. It's not completed. I only got through 4 episodes.
Right. So I mean, obviously, like I said, you said it kind of a hard thing to do to translate is the inner thoughts of stuff like that. Have you found a way to really translate that to a screen? Do you do any like voiceover or even like noir style narration to get that power across, or do you have to like weave a way to showcase it in your stuff?
You gotta weed it in there somehow. I mean, you got to show it through the character's actions and a little bit of exposition, but not a lot. Because you can't go in too much. You'll have your audience falling asleep at like the 5-minute mark of them saying stuff.
Right. Now, if you're working on new books, I'm assuming you are, right? Are you kind of gearing more towards film writing instead?
It's funny you say that because right before I started filmmaking, I was writing the sequel to Morium, and I'm like 85% done with it. And I haven't gone back. I've just been writing scripts. So eventually I want to circle back and finish that.
For sure. I mean, if you had to pick a path, what would you rather do? Was writing books or writing movies?
Oh. Well, I would say movies because it's more visual.
Yeah. I can get that. Like I said, it's interesting to see, with what you're working on. Is there ever a point where you're writing a movie script now that you go, I should write like a companion book with this?
I haven't thought about that. Seriously, I haven't. I mean, that might be a good idea maybe for, I would say, corn zombies. Might have a novel here and there.
I mean, I can definitely see that. For like I said, when I was talking with Anne and what I've seen of corn zombies, that you guys kind of had the idea because you were by a cornfield and like, what if? And you talk about the story about going around, I think, around the fire talk about what you guys could do with it to make
Right.
Attack of the Corn Zombies.
Right.
You know,
the cast of it came from somewhere, but running around in the cornfield, and that happens after a long day shooting. A little bit of alcohol will do to you.
right, right. But with what I said, with like Attack of the Corn Zombies and A Night of the Dead Sorority Babes, you know, it'd be interesting to write like a companion book to it to exist in that universe as well.
Right, in their own little world, like they did with Walking Dead. It just got books after books.
Right, for sure. I know that's something I've been discussing with some people I know that do indie horror, stuff like that. I happen to know from another show I do, a lot of comic book creators and indie comic book creators. I go, you know, it'd be really interesting is we may not have the budget and the special effects to do everything we'd want to do in these movies. What if we also create comics in the same world?
Yeah.
You know, because I have a couple ideas in my head that I want to do for comics as well, to go over like parody of horror movies and stuff like that. I think just be really interesting to see that. Then you can even be able to potentially sell the idea of a bigger budget sequel. You can go, hey, here's the book, here's a comic book, here's the first movie, and then get work on getting budget for a bigger sequel.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So have you been to any cons or anything like that while promoting your work?
I have not, and I hang my head in shame on that.
Yeah, is it something you want to do? Because I know Anne was there, you know, talking about what Acrostar is doing.
Right, I got to get to one.
Okay.
I really do. I mean, I would love to go to one.
Right. Like I said, my first one was in April, and it was Days of the Dead con, which is funny because living also in the Chicagoland area and being a huge nerd and horror nerd, I've never been to a Comic-Con. I've never been to this stuff. I've only done movie marathons in the past. And I'm just interested because, like I said, you know, I was able to meet, you know, Anthony Cousins there and talk about Frogman and his work. And I think the love of the horror community really shines through at cons and stuff like that.
Right. I've only been to one convention in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And that was the Star Trek convention.
For sure. Now, I mean,
I definitely want to go to one.
Mm-hmm.
They look like a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, they are. Like, it's like I said, I was able, you know, I got press passes to be able to go to it, and I didn't, you know, abuse that in any way, shape, or form. But it, you know, I made sure I was going around to every table, to every booth, every person there, just talk to them and talking about what they're doing and their work, and I was able to book them for the shows. You know, and that's just, I think it's great marketing thing that really costs you just, you know, maybe $50, $100 for the table.
Right, it helps to get your word out.
Yeah, yeah. No, I see Anne's in the chat. Hey, Anne, how's it going?
Is she there?
Yeah. For sure.
There she is.
Yeah. Now, someone in our chat's asking an interesting question, talking about Indiegogo and, you know, the painstaking money raising stuff that, you know, you guys didn't happen to make your goal, but you're still able to complete it. Do you think he's asking you to still make it? You know, without spoiling, you know, you're talking about that. Why don't you tell us about where we're at with Night of the Dead Sorority Babes?
I'm currently in post-production. Right now I'm heading into my third edit of the film. Before it gets shipped off, they have the score done for it.
Oh.
And then after the score, we go for sound design, and hopefully we get it out in September. It should be out in September.
So what's your planned release? Do you have, are you able to, you know, go to a distribution company and get, you know, be able to get it? Do you have plan on doing like, you know, from like Not Quite Reality marketing and DVD making? Is that your plan with the movie?
There will be DVDs and Blu-rays. We're not sure about distribution yet. We are looking into that.
Okay.
Usually I go to places like Film Hub.
Okay.
We'll start off on Amazon Prime or Amazon before moving over like Tubi and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, that's a great product to go to bring to cons too. Is once you get that pressed, be able to sell them there. You know,
Right.
now for as you know, you're directing some of these as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what's been the kind of the most challenging scene for you to have done in one of your films?
Most challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I would have to go back. I would have to say to Morium, where one of the characters, her name is Lexi, who self-harms.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a scene of her actually cutting herself.
Oh,
And that was very difficult to watch
right.
because that's something I had personally gone through myself. So that was kind of hard to watch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was tough. That had to be the toughest.
Yeah, because I know from like I said, you promote anti-bullying, you promote mental health care and stuff like that, and I can only imagine what's that like to actually have that, and I discussed with other writers and directors too. Like it's hard for me to imagine being in that spot and filming some of the scenes that get done.
Right. It is tough, but it's also kind of like a release
Mm-hmm.
in a way. It's a way to channel that out, like in writing.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing, what you're able to do. I guess that makes sense. Like I said, I haven't had the chance to be behind the camera yet and start doing my own stuff, but in my head, I'm just still going, do I really want to be there shooting this? You know?
Yeah. And there were some scenes in the film of Disremembered
Hmm.
that were kind of hard to watch or direct. But I
Right.
also had a co-director with Angel Bradford. So,
Okay. Yep. And she's in a lot of your stuff.
right, you're Desperate Souls,
Yeah.
Disremembered,
My
and Night of the Sorority Babes.
Yep. Yeah. It's amazing that what it's like. So what's it been really like for you being into the indie horror film world versus the indie author? What's been the
Uh,
biggest difference for you?
mm, Not much of a difference. I mean, from indie authors to indie filmmakers, they all help each other out. They all
Hmm.
stand next to one another, support each other. I mean, we're
Right.
not major studios, so we all like got each other's backs, and that's really awesome.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. So for like I said, for the individuals I've been able to interview on this show, with people I've been able to work with, and some of the stuff, it's been like just a weird community. Not weird as in people that are weird, but I work in IT as my day job, and my co-host and I can test this to all day and night, is that there's like not a lot of information and knowledge that people want to do in that what I do for my day job. But to see that community, that camaraderie that exists in the indie world is just mind-boggling to me. How great it is, how that support system is there.
Right, it is amazing, and I'm grateful for everything I've learned and who I made friends with, and I've made some great friends out there.
Hmm.
Some of them are right now in the chat.
Yeah, like I said, I appreciate. I'm seeing new names in their chat. Welcome everyone. I'm glad you guys are here. I always like seeing new faces. It's awesome to see your community come with these shows too, to come out and support the writers, directors, the actors, and everyone that goes in with it. It's amazing to me that the community is there, and this is why I like to do this, is because I get to meet and talk to every creative person I possibly can in the horror world. It's just a pleasure to be able to do that. you know
Right,
so um I have to ask the question, why horror of all things? Why horror?
because because you could be as fucked up as you want, and doesn't have to make sense at times.
There you
You're
go.
not bound. You're not bound by the rules of. Uh, how can I say it? There are no rules. How's that?
There you go.
Do whatever you want,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
supernatural shit.
Hmm.
Anything you want to come up with, you can do.
Yeah. Chief is saying he loved It Came From Somewhere.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's horror is only your imagination, and what I find really fascinating about horror is that no matter what we imagine, there's someone that's doing way worse things in real life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just. Yeah, that's what I love about horror and supernatural. Just any crazy shit you could come up with, just go for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just as long as you can pull it off, it's there. It's I love it, and with especially with what you talk about with the mental health and self-harm and bullying, is that I always found horror movies, especially when you look at time period pieces of the 70s, of the 80s, even now, it's always a good social commentary of what the fears are of our society at that point in time, the taboos that you're able to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's a good period piece of that state of mind of society, and that's why I love other independent other country movies too, is because wow, this is something that they fear. We may not understand it as an American, but in their culture, this is what their fears are. We have stuff like The Purge.
And sometimes it's okay to push the boundaries as far as you can go.
Oh yeah. There's taboo films for a reason, and it's just it's, as long as it's entertaining, it's a great story. Maybe special effects aren't always where you want them to be, but I think as a writer, you might agree that it's the story that is the best character in any
Exactly right.
movie.
Yep. Yep. If you got a shitty story, I mean, the filming's not gonna. You need a
Yeah.
story.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I said, I do a podcast as well. We talk about horror movies every week. We talk about yeah, the effects are atrocious, but the story, like, if we can forgive the effects, they are what they are. If the story is boring and interesting, it's not a good movie.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this time flew by fast for me. Let's get into some of these roundup questions here for you. I asked the same question, and I always get the same answer. Let's keep that trend going. What's better, practical or CGI?
Practical.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely practical.
Oh yeah. No one has said anything otherwise in 31 episodes that we've done. It's awesome. I love that practical is still there, and I think practical works well in independent horror.
Yes.
It really does. All right. So if you, Steve Herman, were able to work in any franchise of anything out there, what would it be? If you're given, like, say, $10 million, what franchise do you want?
Halloween.
Halloween?
Yeah.
Would you make it a remake or a continuation?
Oh, I don't want to do another remake. It'd be a continuation.
Of what timeline?
Let's see. That would be
The one that ended with,
Carpenter, not the Carpenter, the
okay.
third one. I can't think
Ooh.
of it right now. Not the
Season
Rob
of,
Zombie, no, but
awesome. All right. So, any advice that you can give to any aspiring filmmakers, directors, authors that you can give?
just go for it. If you love to do it, just don't have anything hold you back. I mean, you can make it fun with the camera, your cell phone, anything nowadays. Just go out there and follow your dream.
Yes. That's what I love to hear. I love to hear, just do it. It's awesome. All right. You ready for your random horror trivia question?
Fire away.
All right. After their friend was tragically killed, four friends reunite in a Scandinavian forest and stumble upon an ancient evil in what 2017 British horror film?
2017. Can I call a friend?
You can.
Hello.
I don't know if you want. I don't know many people have watched it, so that's a hard one. I will give you that. I couldn't even tell you who stars in it, quite honestly. It's that indie, yeah. British.
British? I have no idea.
The Ritual.
Oh.
If you haven't seen it, it is a good folklore horror movie. It's amazing, I think. But make sure to check it out and watch it.
I'm gonna have to see that.
Yes, watch it as quickly as you can. I say it's fantastic. I won't spoil anything. Don't read anything because there's big twists that will get spoiled if you look it up too hard. All right, so we're at the end of the show. So Steve, why don't you go ahead and give us your pluggables? Where can people find you, find out more about you, and find all updates for upcoming movies?
Well, you can find us on Facebook at Indie Horror Films from Acrostar. And I'm sure if Anne's still here, she'll correct me if I'm wrong. AcrostarProductions.com. Instagram is Acrostar Films. Same with TikTok, but I'm not really on TikTok a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I have an account. I'm an old man, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to use it and how to use it to my advantage.
There you go. Awesome. So anyone who also wants to check it out, it is links to the description is below in the YouTube video. So make sure to check it out. Like I said, I've watched the trailer for Dead Sorority Babes. I watched the proof of concept. I can't wait to see the final product for the movie. So thank you, Steve, for joining us tonight. We'll see you next time to make sure not get lost in the void. Good night.